Okay, we have the legend Jerry West on the telephone with us. And Jerry, I want to start off with this. I just gave my top 5 ball handlers in NBA history, and I said Kyrie Irving is number 1. I don't know if you agree or not, but what do you think about that?
Well, I think he has a lot of time you have people style over substance and substance over style. Well, he's got substance and style, and I think that makes him very, very attractive. He's so clever, has such confidence and particularly when he's driving to the basket, he might be the best finisher in the game that's not a dunker. He just has unique skills, and he's the one when you watch him, you say to yourself, my goodness, he's got something different with all his change of paces, his explosiveness, getting to the rim, finishing with his both hands. Steph Curry is a tremendous ball handler too. He has a different kind of he's kind of more herky-jerky, and he probably wants to shoot a jump shot, and particularly going to his left. And yet he's a shot maker going to the basket too, and people lose sight of that. But there's been Irvin Johnson, for his size, his incredible ability to handle the ball, but he was a safe player. He wasn't the flashy one, okay? He just had substance and style. And so you get unique players, and obviously we're not talking about some really good ball handlers, but people who have played the game at a higher level also.
Yeah, now when you played, and even when I grew up learning how to play, they taught us to dribble with the ball on top of our hand on top of the ball. And now,
yeah, that's correct.
These guys obviously are doing what we would have called carrying or palming the ball back in the day. How much of that has to do with the ball handling being so much better now?
Well, there's no question that helps enormously. If you're dribbling the ball, and particularly if you're turning the corner and you're trying to turn a corner, today you can get your hand under the ball,
yeah,
and you can change directions 100 degrees. That has to be carrying the ball. You can't physically do that unless you have your hand under the ball, changing directions. But I also think that kids today, when they start out, I was having a discussion with some people last night at a class at University of Southern California. And we're talking about all the coaching aids, all the things that these kids have seen and watched. And what do you see young kids do? They're all dribbling the basketball.
Yep.
And they have little hands, okay? But you watch them dribble the basketball, and they're dribbling on the side of the basketball. And can you imagine the difference in trying to dribble it relatively on the top of the ball and actually being able to roll the ball under the hand, with their hand under the ball? It even makes for kids with smaller hands to be really exceptional ball handlers. And one of the things that I watch all the time, and I know it's kind of crazy, but it's my interest in the game and where I see the game going. Everyone, I don't care how big they are, these kids have all started out dribbling the basketball. And I watch kids on YouTube a lot. Some incredible young players. Some of them are the sons of current NBA players. Watch them handle the basketball, and again, they pick this up since they're little, and obviously their families have encouraged them to participate. And you watch them handle the ball. It's just amazing to me what they've picked up. Every time you see a player do something different, kids copy Steph Curry and his ball handling routine before he starts the game. Kyrie Irving, just to watch him, all the things he can do with the ball. Kids like to watch players like that. Watch LeBron James now, all the workout stuff he does. I saw something the other day he's doing on kind of like plastic looking bags for balance. these kids today are like sponges, and so anytime they can see one of these great players doing something, obviously they're going to try to replicate it because they so admire the way they play.
You mentioned where the game is going today. And obviously today's NBA game, there's a heavy emphasis on the three-pointers. It's kind of positionless basketball, very little post play. And even I think there's a shrinking mid-range game. How do you feel about the direction of today's game, versus what it was, whether it was when you played or even the 80s and 90s when post play and mid-range games were a much bigger part of it?
Well, I do think, everyone follows the lemmings over the sea, so to speak. But a lot of this stuff is the way the kids are taught today. If you have a lot of kids participating in AAU sports and leagues, if they're good enough, they graduate to the AAU teams, okay? Mm-hmm. And their influence is tremendous. Their games are about slicing the ball to the basket, dunking the ball if they can at a relatively young age, and shooting three-point shots. But to do that, you have to be a really good ball handler. And regardless of what size you are, you see these guys that they're really big, and they're almost like positionless players. And I say that as a positive, because if you have two or three of those guys, everyone the traditional point guard. At one time, everyone used to look as a point guard. You throw it to him, and you let five other people move around, and hopefully the guy finds the right person. But I think those players are more difficult to play with. I think more ball movement, more drive. It's a drive and kick game. And when you get in the lane, if you can find people in the corners, the corner three-point shot is a high percentage shot if you're a good shooter. It's not. To me, it was nothing more than almost just an extended foul shot, and I never played under those rules, but I certainly shot from there. So it's not a particularly difficult shot, but I do think the game is becoming more positionless. People get somebody 7 feet who's shooting three-point shots just as well or better than a smaller player. Yeah. I think that for players, because of the long arms and the athletic ability, to me, they're really, some of them are missing the boat with these 15-foot shots that are not hard. You have the right technique and the right footwork. Because I just think, I saw a game the other night. I was shocked when I saw this game. 2 plays in a row, a ball was turned over, and this same person shot 2 3-point shots, 1 on 5. And I'm saying to myself, I don't think that's a smart shot, and I don't think it's a smart shot, and no one can argue to me that is a smart shot, because three-point shooting is getting better. I think the other thing that you look at, and you can tell the shooting has improved, is the free throw percentage that players are shooting. We have a bunch of guys who are shooting mid-90s, high 90s, low 90s, and so you can see that there's so much more time spent with their shooting, and particularly the shooting form. And if you don't have good shooting form, you're probably not going to be able to shoot at that level.
So you're not one of the older players who thinks there needs to be more post play. It doesn't really bother you that we don't have great big men in the post anymore?
Well, you have people that can score in there, but some of them are smaller, okay?
Yeah.
And I still think late in the game, if you have a big guy that's truly a great center, I don't see a great center in this league. I see great players that are versatile, that don't play with their back to the basket a lot. But almost all of them have the ability to step out in the court. I think the way they have been taught and the way that they have played, it's more conventional to have a player like that. And, we have, here in Los Angeles, you have a lot of different people that I've watched some of the greatest players we have, and the Lakers won an NBA championship here in the 80s with Magic Johnson, Abdul-Jabbar, James Worthy, Michael Cooper, Byron Scott, shooting very few three-point shots.
Yep.
Very few.
Yep.
But I think the biggest difference is this: if you have a center that just loves to stay under the basket, and if he can't come out in all the pick and rolls that they're put in today, he's going to be a liability defensively. But on the other hand, if he's an overwhelming offensive player, or particularly an offensive rebounder, he's going to destroy some of these kids in the league today because they haven't been taught traditionally back to the basket play. And if you have one of those guys, my goodness, who's versatile enough to step out and make a 15-footer, you've got an exceptional player in the NBA today. But one of these days, you're going to come along, and there's going to be somebody in there like Abdul-Jabbar, Akeem Olajuwon, who can make a 15-footer, but you throwing the ball, he's going to have to get doubled and tripled. And then that changes the concept of the game. But those players don't seem to be being developed today.
Well, you bring up an interesting point because I know the rules are different, so it might be hard to do this.
They certainly are.
Yeah. Can you imagine the Showtime Lakers or even the Shaq Kobe Lakers playing against these Warriors? How would you see a game like that going?
Well, I would tell you that Shaquille O'Neal would overwhelm players in this league today. Kobe Bryant would be as great as he was then. There would be no question. He played here lately. Well, not lately, but later in his career, I should say. He played in the kind of a modern era. But if you're well aware, if you look at the history of the league, the Boston Celtics used to shoot 100 shots a game.
Yeah.
The old Celtics. And so they were kind of a almost replicated the way the game was played today.
The pace was faster when you played. Yeah, back when you played.
Yeah, and when I don't know if the pace was faster, but we shot a lot more shots, okay? But again, the coaching has gotten to the point where it's gotten so good, everyone gets scouted. But if you're a good defensive team, you're going to have more offensive opportunities and should have more good ones. Turnovers, steals, forced shots. Those things lead to run-out baskets and easy layups. Today, they're and particularly because I was involved with the Warriors for a few years, I got a chance to watch some truly unique players shoot the ball, as good or better than anyone I've ever seen. Not one, but two.
Yeah.
And then you throw a Kevin Durant in there who can make all kind of shots for his last year there. And it's truly these two players are two of the most gorgeous shooters that I have ever seen in my life. And it's a pleasure to watch them shoot the ball. It's a pleasure how they work, to watch them work together. And for me, I've always felt that shooting is an art form. And if you see these kids today, some of them have gorgeous shooting strokes. And don't think they haven't copied some of the shooters they most admire. We're going to see more shooters today because of the way the game has played. And then, you watch a Ben Simmons in Philadelphia. Here's a guy that looked like he doesn't shoot the ball.
Yeah.
And doesn't want to shoot the ball, but he's so good and he's so talented that he can get the ball to the basket because he's deceptive and he's big. Kids are going to want to play like him going forward, and he's been by far the best rookie this year. He
reminds me of Magic Johnson. Is that? I mean, you obviously worked with Magic. Do you see that?
Well, I do, but Irvin had more of a shot selection, but this was something that he developed by working on it diligently on his game. But this kid, to me, he's a better athlete than Irvin. He's certainly not a better player at this point in time, but he's a better athlete, and he's bigger. And Irvin was big, but Irvin had the same kind of mind. I would say he had one of the great minds. He was one of the great leaders that this league has ever seen. You won't see many players like him in your lifetime, and I had the pleasure to watch him for so many years make plays that other people simply can't make, and this kid can do it. And my goodness, he's going to be an enormous player before his career is over. And can you imagine if he would have a 15-foot shot consistently he can make? Oh my goodness, it would be to me it would be impossible to play something like that. Who are you going to put on him?
No, I agree. Now, Magic told me once. He once told me a story where he said it was a practice his rookie season. I think it was maybe even in training camp. And he said a player, I believe it was Ron Boone, like hammered him under the basket. They were scrimmaging. And then on the next possession on the other end, Magic kind of hauled off and just punched Ron Boone. And he said you were watching in the stands and you called Magic over and like you were angry, but you really told him, you loved it and you were proud of him. And he said that was kind of when you knew he was going to be a player or he had heart. Like, do you recall that story?
Something I do. The one thing I used to, when he was younger, he was jumping around all over the place. And I said, my God, Irvin, I said, we play 82 games. And I said, I know you have boundless energy and enthusiasm. But I said, as you get older, I said, the one thing you're going to find is that that shouldn't be there from a perspective that would. I said, you're going to wear yourself out physically by expending all this energy. But to watch him grow as a player and watch some of the things that he did, the people who had a chance to watch him up close and personal and get to know him and watch how hard he worked on his game. This was just one of those magnificent players that if you're around him, he was a great guy. He was a great teammate. It's just one of those players that you always, I'll always take the memories I had from watching him play and watching how he approached the game. He was the ultimate competitor. And anyway, it's just fun to watch those kind of people come in. But again, you think of the revolution of this league, the big mobile kids, and there's going to be more in the future. Watch Giannis in Milwaukee. My God, he's 22 years old? What's he going to be? I mean, it's just amazing. And, he's improved so much, and he has a joy to play this game. And when I watch him play, I say to myself, where he first came into the league, and to watch him play today, this is a truly unique talent also. But on the thing that separates those talented players is how competitive they really are. But when you watch him, he's going to be one of those guys, if I'm not mistaken, he's going to be one of those guys that everyone is going to be talking about him, even though he's playing in a small market. Can you imagine if he'd been playing in New York or Los Angeles or Chicago?
Yeah.
This guy is truly unique. I mean, he's a great player. I love to watch him play because he's gotten better. He looks like he gets better every game. And when he gets to the point where he can make a 15-foot, 17-foot shot consistently, he's not bad now. But again, he's worked on it so hard, and it tells you what kind of a person he is.
Yep.
He wants to be not great. He wants to be the best, and he's approaching that right now.
Who would you, if you had to pick your all-time starting five by position, so a point guard, shooting guard, small forward, power forward, center, who would be your top starting five?
I would get myself in trouble with many of the friends that I have in the league and players I so admire. That would be almost an impossible task because I think you have to forget the eras that these players have played in, okay? And look at the era today, okay? That's what matters most, the era today. I think it would be difficult. There would be a bunch of players. If you give me 10, I would do that, but I'm not going to do it in the first place because something that's sure to create controversy is trying to compare players from different eras and, who's the greatest player of all time.
Do you have
nature.
an idea on the best? Like most people say Michael Jordan. Do you have an idea who you think was the best player ever?
Well, I've said it. I think Michael's the best player, and I'll tell you why I think he's been. Everyone talks about championships, okay? To me, you're fortunate if you can play on one championship team. If you play with two, you're playing with exceptional players, and you're playing with players that complement each other. I think the most important thing is the players, how they play. If you look at the body of their work for so many times, and how they kept their teams competitive, regardless of who they were playing against, how they approached the game from a mental and physical aspect, and what competitors they were. And I just think, you look at LeBron James, my goodness. I don't think he gets enough credit. I really don't. No one will put him up in that category at this point in his career. I think this guy has been remarkable. He has carried teams that didn't have a lot of talent as compared to the teams they were playing in the finals. 7 straight finals in today's era with all the teams, the spreading out of talent. I think it's remarkable if you see his body of work on both ends of the court. I have never felt he's got enough kudos, to be honest with you.
I know after the 2011 finals when he lost to Dallas in Miami, he called you, to talk about, not winning championships and how you dealt with some of the finals losses. What'd you tell him?
Well, I think anytime you have conversation with players that are private, they should remain private. And the one thing I said to him, I played in 9 NBA finals. I won 1. How do you think I felt? And I said, you just have to go back with a different resolve. And it was private, and I don't really think I should get into it. But somebody I've really admired from a distance, watching him come in the league as a early player. But there's also the thing I do admire about him, too, is the fact that he puts his money where his mouth is. He does things for people. He's concerned about children growing up. I just think it's unique that players can have that kind of a social consciousness, and also the things that he does for educational purposes. I admire some of the things he does off the court.
Now he's kind of known for creating this new super team era, but I think there's obviously been super teams in the past. I mean, you guys in LA with Wilt and Elgin Baylor, Gail Goodrich, yourself, obviously, that was obviously a super team. But you guys,
it didn't have the success. We didn't win a championship with that team.
Now you won one. Was Gail with you?
Yes, he was. But Elgin retired. I think our record was 5-4. And when Elgin retired, I said, "This is over, okay?" And because he was a player that I most admired, somebody who treated me like I was his equal. I just loved this guy. And when he left there, I said, "Oh my God, this is horrible." And I'd lost my friend. I lost somebody. We had shared a lot of hardship in terms of losing in the finals. We won 33 straight games without him after he retired. And I said, "How is this possible? How is it possible?" But sometimes teams fit really well together, and he had a lot of injuries that had hurt him in terms of his ability to play the game at a level he used to play at. And some teams just fit together. And also, people don't think luck enters into this. Don't ever believe it doesn't play a great amount of luck. Right bounce at the right time, some guy missing a shot that he would make 9 out of 10 times so easy, missing a layup that could win a championship, or put you over the top, put you instead of 2 points ahead, put 4 points ahead. There was no 3-point shots at that time unless it was the right way, the old-fashioned way. And I just think that, as I say, this game entails a lot more things than the average fan thing. Well, if two teams stay healthy, staying healthy is hard to do. But it's just a completely different league, and as I say, more importantly, it's gotten better in terms of fans watching the game. My goodness, all the exposure that the players have. I think it's the most fun game to watch. And when I watch football today, I think people are turning it off. I mean, they're tired of seeing all the injuries, and I think all the controversy that's going on in the league today about social issues. Sometimes people get turned off. They just want to watch an athletic contest. And people have, and players, I admire players who speak out. I think that's, to me, in football, I see, everyone talks about how much money people make in football. My gosh, the chances they take, it should, in my opinion, should be all guaranteed.
I agree.
Their money should be all guaranteed. And I also think that these concussion issues, the violence of the game, all these people getting speared in the head, all the concussions, the tragic stories that occur from stuff like that. I just think basketball has become a game that has kind of captured the imagination. And these young kids, regardless of what size you are today, heck, Isaiah Thomas, was he 5'9"?
Yeah.
This guy was an all-star at 5'9".
Yep.
And the way the game has changed, it gives kids, and particularly smaller players, that have a unique talent. If you don't have a unique talent, you're probably going to not be able to play in the league. The unique talent usually is great physical ability, maybe a great leader, a great distributor of the ball, even scoring. And I think it was really ironic in the Eastern Conference Finals a year ago. The first player taken in the draft was LeBron James. The 60th player taken in the draft, Isaiah Thomas. They were the two best players on their team. And it tells you that people make mistakes, and particularly they make mistakes when they can't look inside of somebody's head, and particularly their heart. And that, to me, is what's made this league. All these little kids who are out there pretending or hoping to be in a Kyrie Irving. He's not the biggest person in the world. And Isaiah Thomas, there's hope for them today the way the game is played.
Yeah, especially with the 3-point shooting. Do you ever wish you had played with the 3-point line? I mean, your numbers were ridiculous as it was. Like, what do you think you would have averaged with the 3-point line?
I don't know if that would have been in. Well, obviously in your career you make shots like that, but it wasn't something that people were much more ball conscious, moving the ball, more movement, more passing, more shots. So coaches have had a great deal of influence on it, and obviously the OABA brought something to this league that you never want to see get rid of. When it first came into the league, I didn't think it would ever become a real weapon like it is today, except when you're behind. If you were 3 points behind with 7 seconds left to go, you were going to lose the game, period. The game was over, unless you were a moron and fouled someone, and that usually didn't happen. But today, hell, you can make a 4-point play because somebody's contesting it.
Yep.
And so it has changed the dynamics of the game. But at one time when leads were not safe, hell, teams can come back from 20 points behind in the fourth quarter and win games because of a 3-point shot.
Yep.
And so I think it's added a reason for people not to leave the game when the games are out of hand, and particularly if you've got a very capable team playing and they haven't been playing well that night. 10 times down the court and you could be ahead.
Yep.
The game has changed, and as I say, I like the I like the way the game has changed. I see things that I'm watching a few games here recently. Guys driving for the basket, okay, making a layup, and somebody bumps into them. They're falling down, and they hit somebody on the neck or up to the head area. And I'm saying to myself, that's a technical foul? My goodness, it's ridiculous. It's not a technical foul.
Yep.
And I think everyone's so concerned about the trauma that they see in football that I saw Carmelo Anthony get kicked out of the game the other night. I had to laugh that he got kicked out of the game.
That offensive
I had to
foul,
laugh.
Yep. That was.
Well, it shouldn't be in there, okay? People who make the rules, they haven't played this game before, and they don't know when you're up in the air and somebody bumps you, you're trying to catch yourself, you might grab someone by the shoulder. You might grab them by the neck. And I don't like that. I just think it's ridiculous.
Yeah, I think that obviously the game is not, they don't allow it to be as physical as it used to be. And
well, it's not physical at all, Chris. It's not physical, period. You have bigger bodies, but it's not physical game at all.
Yeah. Now, you obviously were a superstar. I mean, Larry Bird, Rick Barry, John Stockton. I mean, some of the greatest players to ever play the game. I feel like we really haven't had a white American superstar since John Stockton, but you've got great white players. I mean, Steve Nash, Dirk Nowitzki, Pau Gasol, Manu Ginobili. Now you got Kristaps Porzingis, but they're all from outside of America. Why do you think we're no longer developing great white American players? And kind of what would you say to, a young white American kid who wants to be a great basketball player?
Well, you better have an incredible work ethic, okay, number one. I admire players who have a work ethic. You can't get better or you can't compete at this level because there's, 420 players playing in the NBA? It's the most competitive league there is. There's only 60 players drafted from America every year.
Yeah.
There's players from other countries that are hungrier. They work at it. Many of them are bigger. Players from these Ukraine areas, they're all big, and they work very, very hard on their skill. And when I watch today, I don't necessarily think it's the fact that there's not some wonderful white players out there. But I was remarking last night that when we first came to Los Angeles, we were on the last page of two newspapers. The Rams were selling out the Coliseum 100,000. The Dodgers were drawing 80 or 90,000 in the Coliseum for baseball. And we were a nobody, the first team in the town. And to watch the transformation of basketball here in Los Angeles, and we had some white players then, but we had the advent of players who had to go to school for 4 years, had a different kind of player in terms of socially, and I think players were really close and liked each other a lot then. You had nothing, you made no money, and you traveled together. You spent all your time together. You didn't have opulent flying. You didn't have all the amenities that people have today. And so the game has changed, but I mentioned to this class last night, who would have ever thought that we have not one basketball player who happens to be white, regardless of what country they're in, would not be the one who would be the voice of the league. To me, I think the remarkable change I have seen in this game, and also some things that help enormously socially, is to see that the most revered athletes in our league are black, okay? Mm-hmm. They're the ones who are all of the leading people you see on TV with advertising. They make fortunes off the court. Mm-hmm. I am so thrilled to see that happen for me personally, okay?
Yep.
And it tells you that the most popular players in our league are all black. And to me, that's a great social commentary. They're revered. They're admired not only here but all over the world. And some of them are just the greatest representative for their respective races, and regardless of where they come from. It's amazing cultural change for me to see, and I'm thrilled that this happened. I've had a chance to see it happen in my lifetime.
Now, speaking of superstars, I mean, you're obviously working with the Clippers as a consultant, and you guys had one in Chris Paul, who obviously went to Houston. Were you guys going to offer Chris the full 5-year max contract, or did did that have anything to do with him leaving, you think?
First of all, I just got here when all this was going on. I just arrived on the scene. So, I'm not nearly as up to date on that as I should be. I know that they wanted to retain him, but Chris does not want to be here. And I think that when you have a player that doesn't want to be there and you have no control over the situation, he was unrestricted. And he was one of my favorite players, I have to admit. I loved the way he approached the game. I loved how he competed. But he didn't want to be here. And to me, I think if someone doesn't want to be here, at one time you didn't have the right to exercise that option, okay? Mm-hmm. But he will be, whether or not Houston will pay him that much money, I'm not sure. So it's up to them.
Yeah.
I don't know what their talks have been with him, but he helped the Clippers out, and the Clippers helped him out because he can go there and make more money.
Do you have any? I mean, we hear older players all the time criticizing players for jumping, to more talented teams. LeBron, Kevin Durant, even Chris Paul goes to play with James Harden. Do you have a problem with that or not?
I don't. And the reason why I don't, because there was a couple of times in my career when I was part of the change in this league in terms of seeing players have a chance to be representative. In 1964, the Players Association was formed before a All-Star game, led by Larry Fleischer, Tom Heinsohn, Bill Russell, Oscar Robertson, and all the players who really were concerned, and because you had no rights at all then, absolutely none. And, if you had no representation, players made little or no money. You had to work in the off season if you had a family. But I think the thing that was, to me, that was a changing of the guard.
Okay.
And today, when I see players have the right to leave, there was an owner here in Los Angeles who will go anonymous when I played, who lied to me more than once about a contract situation. You didn't have to lie to me. All you have to do is say, no, I don't agree that this is what we should do. And can you imagine someone from West Virginia who was shy, bashful, all I cared about was playing. I wanted to get paid what was fair and what was right, and I never received that in Los Angeles. It just, I applaud players who want to leave, okay? But the one thing I've never understood, when Kevin Durant left Oklahoma City, okay, he left for whatever reason he left. I don't think it had anything to do, period, with Russell Westbrook. I think he wanted to make a change. Everyone wants to blame his relationship with Russell Westbrook. I don't believe that at all. Oklahoma City's done a great job there. Their franchise has been always, here in the last few years, very competitive. And I think he wanted to change. And he gets killed for it. He absolutely gets killed for it. But when I see Gordon Hayward leave Utah, there was little or no outcry. Why does it have to be LeBron James and Kevin Durant? Yeah. And again, if Gordon wanted to leave, so be it. Unfortunately, I'm so sick that he got hurt and not have a chance to play. That really doesn't seem fair.
Yeah.
But to me, it never made sense why he really got little or no complaint. But LeBron James and Kevin both were social outcasts. I just think it's grossly unfair. They earned the right to leave, And I wish in my career I would have had the same opportunity.
How much, because we know you played a large part in the recruiting Durant to Golden State. You know, as he was going through last year and receiving all that criticism, did you talk to him a lot or, you know, kind of help him work through that?
I just told him, forget about it. I said, just come here and play, forget about it, and basically tell those people to go to hell.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
But he's a great guy, by the way. Oh my gosh, he's so easy to be around. One of the things I have always said, when a person gets a reputation as being a scorer, and no one else talks about his total game, this guy's got a total game.
Yep.
He's leading the league in block shots, I believe, and he's one of the most efficient players. He's shooting 13 or 14 shots a game, and he's averaging 20-some points a game.
Mm-hmm.
He seems to be really happy. He doesn't have to kill himself every night. And he's playing with a unique group of players. And it's always for a player, you know, coming to a really good team, if they're not willing to buy into the process of playing with this team who plays differently, then they're not going to have the success they want, nor the team going to have it, is going to have it. And he has bought into that theory. He never even tried to be the dominant scorer he was, and he averaged 25 or almost 26 points a game. And at the end of the season, he had plenty left in the tank. He didn't kill himself. And when I watched Russell Westbrook play last year, this guy is maybe the most remarkable athlete I've ever seen. But the thing that I so enjoy about him, he is so intense, and he plays this game the way it's intended to be played. Now, a lot of people play hard, but they don't have the ability he has. He might be the most remarkable athlete that I have ever seen in basketball. I've never seen someone so supercharged like him. He's just otherworldly when it comes to athleticism. And on top of it, his ability to compete is second to none I've seen.
Yeah, I mean, did you ever think we'd see somebody else average a triple-double other than Oscar?
Well, I think you have to be, number one, you have to have the ball in your hand and a chance to do it. But he put so much pressure on the defense that if he had more good shooting around him, my gosh,
yeah,
he might have averaged 20 assists a game, because I don't know if you can keep him in front of you. I really don't. I don't care what kind of defender. And I hear people talking about lockdown defenders. I don't know what a lockdown defender is, but you could put two lockdown defenders on him, and you're not going to keep him from going where he wants to go.
Now, everybody knows that you're the logo. That's your nickname, the logo, or one of them. And I saw you several months ago say that the NBA should be embarrassed that you're the logo. Why'd you say that?
I did not say that.
Okay.
I did not say that, Chris. What I said was, the question that was asked me was, if they wanted to change it, would it bother me? And I said no, it would not. I've never done anything as a person to call attention to myself or be the logo. Okay, I've never done that, and I never would. I've always been somebody who felt most comfortable just competing and kind of living, I guess, in the background. That's just who I am.
Yeah.
And I don't like notoriety. Unfortunately, I've had it as a player, as an executive. It's flattering when people think you do something a little bit different, but at the end of the day, that's not who I am at all. I'm very realistic about, I had a career that I'm very proud of. I played with some great players. I've had an opportunity to be around the sport I've loved all of my life, and I still love it. And I still get excited about watching it. But to say that that was, somebody brought the question up, and unfortunately, whoever it would be would have to get paid, I guess. I don't get paid for that, by the way, so it would have been nice. But,
you're right.
But as I said, I don't even like to talk about it, to be honest with you.
Well, if you don't mind, would you like them to change it?
Chris, I don't care. Okay, I just don't care.
All right.
But most people don't change traditional things. Okay, they don't.
Yeah. I got two more questions. LeBron James, we know he's in his 15th year. At some point, he's going to, start to decline as a player. Who do you see kind of becoming the face of the league once LeBron's not that anymore?
Well, I think Giannis is going to be right there for sure. I think Ben Simmons, those two players, to me right now, because they have the ball in their hands a lot, okay? They have it in their hands a lot. And they seem to be the ones who are the two that, watching Philadelphia play, he's going to make them a really, really good team. And he's played only 1 year, okay? That's all he's played in the NBA. Yeah. Can you imagine when he gets more experience? The game is an easy game for him to play mentally. It's very easy. And his size and, there's some players that have great skill that look like when you watch them, they're not pretty to watch. Yeah. Those two guys are pretty to watch, okay? Yeah. And that's what's captured the imagination. A Kyrie Irving, he's pretty to watch. He's fun to watch. A Steph Curry's fun to watch. Kevin Durant's fun to watch. A Klay Thompson, if you're around him enough, he's really fun to watch because, he might make 10 threes in a row and never dribble the ball. Yeah. Yeah. And yet he has improved his game so much. And I'm not making reference to the Warriors because I was there. I'm making reference to the Warriors because they have unique players. Mm-hmm. Kristaps Porzingis, you watch him play and his size, he shoots the ball. He's a competitor. He blocks shots. He rebounds. In some respects, he's fun to watch. But he's not as pretty to watch as these other guys. These other guys are pretty to watch. And I think they're the ones who capture the imagination of the league.
Well, you mentioned Steph, and sometimes you hear players not kind of give him the respect he deserves. At least that's what I feel. Why do you think that is?
You know what he looks like? When people look at him, and I'm sure there's players that listen. Professional jealousy is out there. Okay, it's out there. Don't kid yourself. Some players won't even give other players credit, which is ridiculous, okay? But he's gotten better. He's a much better defensive player than he was before. He's gotten better. And let me tell you something. When he's out there, you better pay attention to him, okay? He's a shot maker. He can shoot the ball from distances that most players wouldn't even, I don't even know if they could get it up there with the correct form. But he works on this. It's not something he doesn't do. But he's looked like one of those guys that you like to, sit down with. And you see little kids that people play with all the time with toys and everything. And because the way he looks, okay, he looks like a young little kid. And listen, he is so competitive, and he's one of the greatest kids you ever want to be around in your life. I just admire him so much, the way he conducts himself. He plays the game with a joy. And if you even watch him in warm-up with his teammates, it looks like he's having the time of his life. That would have driven me crazy because I hated everyone I played with. I just thought if you weren't focused, I wish I could have had the personality like that so you could not feel the pressure you felt every night. And I'm sure he does because of the importance he is to the team. But he's got something unique about him. That smile, my God, he's got the most charming smile. He's got something really unique.
But you call
Kevin
him
Durant,
the best shooter ever? I think he's the best shooter ever.
I think so too. But I will tell you right now, his backcourt running mate's right there too.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you. I think they're the best backcourt ever.
Well, as I say, they both improved. That's what's really amazing. Klay Thompson has improved tremendously. Okay, tremendously. And I think if you combine the explosiveness of these guys particularly the advent of the three-point shot, okay, and the way they can use that to their advantage. And as I say, Klay Thompson, he could care less who gets his name in the newspaper, okay? He just plays. But he has gotten so much better this year, just watching early in the year. And this is a time when I really watch players that have been in the league 2 or 3 years to see if they're making progress or they are what they are.
Yep.
And these really good players, they improve subtly every year, okay, every year. And Klay has done that, Steph has done that, and it's just remarkable to watch, to be honest with you. They're extraordinarily good players, but they're even more fun to be around.
I got last question for you, a flashback. I want you to have some fun with it. But it's Game 7, 1969 NBA Finals. You guys, Lakers against the Celtics. And you, the Lakers, can add one player. And you can choose between LeBron James and Michael Jordan. Which one player are you adding?
Well, I think the way the game was played, then, it would have probably been Michael Jordan. And yet, LeBron James, he probably could have played center.
Yeah.
Okay. So both of them would have been good, but I think the way that Michael played in New York would be certainly much more conducive, because there was much more ball movement, not as much dribbling,
Yep.
More pick and rolls. Listen, I would have gladly taken either one of them. Listen, just give me one of them, okay?
Yeah. Well, Jerry, it's always great to talk with you, and I definitely appreciate all this time that you gave me for this interview.
Well, thank you, Chris. My best to you, and continue to watch the NBAs. I think we're going to see some really good play this year, and particularly when teams have had a chance to play a little bit more together. I'm anxious to see Oklahoma City get their act together. They've had a tough time scoring.
Yep.
And I really don't think they're going to continue to play like this. I think you're going to see them explode and be a really good team. But as I say, the team, I think Boston is improved. Their younger players have gotten better, and they got a heck of a coach there too. But there's going to be a lot of teams, I think, that'll be fun to watch and watch the development of them,
Yep.
and particularly from the first to the end of the season.
Is it most people think it's a foregone conclusion that Golden State's winning it if they stay healthy. What do you say to that?
Well, if you Las Vegas, they don't do things to lose money. I've never seen a prohibitive favorite like this in my life.
Yeah.
Okay, and if they stay healthy, I honestly don't see how anyone can beat that team for 2 or 3 years. I really don't.
Yeah.
Unless they have something catastrophic to happen to one of those players. But I heard Jeff Van Gundy said that he thought they could win without Kevin Durant. Okay.
Well, they won. They obviously won one.
Well, they did,
Yeah.
yes, but that's what I'm saying. You put him in there, and where would you rank him yourself as far as top-rated all-around players in the league?
Right now?
What, he'd be in the top 3. He'd be in the top 3 for sure.
Easy.
Okay?
Easy.
And I think Steph Curry would be in the top 4. I think Klay Thompson now would move up the list. Okay? So they have players there on that team, and Draymond Green is not a coach that wouldn't love to coach him. There's not one.
You were one of the first. You were the first. I remember people even scoffing at it a little bit. Years ago, you said he's a top 10 player.
Well, in the league?
Yeah.
He's certainly within the top 15, okay?
Yep.
Certainly within the top 15. I would rate him higher myself because of everything he brings to the game, but he's got an incredible mind to play the game. My goodness. He's a step ahead defensively all the time. He's one of those unique players that comes along every once in a while. And to have all those guys on one team, it's a stroke of good fortune.
Well, you've been around.
Again,
you've been around them, and I think people are hoping they break up. You know, you always hear people talking, well, Clay's going to leave or this or that. You know what their attitudes and personalities are like. Do you see them being the type of guys that get along enough and say, look, we just want to stay together and keep winning?
Well, listen, I've never seen a unique group of players like this. Okay, people always, talk about a great job that the franchises do to assemble really good players and really good teams, and there is a way to do that. Okay, there's no question, there's a way to do it. But the thing I would tell you, I've never seen players of this nature together who genuinely like each other. And unless the Warriors felt that they could not afford these players, which they can, I would expect them to see all of them end their careers together.
Wow. That's going to be tough for the rest of the teams in the league.
Well, for 2 or 3, people say they don't like super teams. I think they create something different and really good myself.
Yeah, I agree. All right, Jerry. Well, thanks a lot, man. I appreciate it.
Okay, Chris. Great to talk to you. My best.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.